Are we rolling?
Yes.
Sophie Fouron, could you do a sound test?
Oui, bonjour tout le monde. Catherine Tait, Michael Goldbloom, hello to you both.
Hello.
On est assis
We're here in our Ottawa facility.
With you, Catherine. Worldwide, the media industry is in flux and facing unprecedented challenges. How is CBC Radio-Canada adapting so that it can continue to meet its public service mandate?
Well, thanks for the question, Sophie. All the media, traditional, digital, domestically and worldwide, are challenged at this time. The domination of the digital giants, when I say that, I mean Google, Meta, Netflix, Amazon, all of those big services have undermined the presence of local media and have threatened local media, especially in areas, what we call news deserts now, across the country, where there's just simply no Canadian-owned companies anymore. And if you add to that the challenge of production costs going up, inflation, revenues going down, revenues tied to our traditional services declining, we have a perfect storm. But the good news is
CBC Radio-Canada is more relevant than ever. In fact, we're here to serve Canadians where they live.
Sur le terrain.
Michael?
Since 2008, I think we've lost close to 500 news outlets in 300 communities across the country. Less news means more room for disinformation to thrive. Responding to this demands that public broadcasters do more, in my opinion.
You know, there was a study done by an organization called Policy Horizons this past year. The question they were asking themselves is, what are the greatest risks to Canada in terms of disruption? And I was somewhat surprised by their conclusion. I thought it would be climate change or international security. Their conclusion was the greatest risk is that Canadians will not know what is true. And when you think about that, what's the essence of a democracy? Is to have a population that is informed so that they can make informed decisions. So I would argue that we probably need the public broadcaster more than we ever have.
The public broadcaster, like all Canadian media, is facing ferocious competition from foreign platforms. What do you think CBC Radio-Canada should do to stand out and stay relevant?
I think, as Catherine has said, it's a question of presence.
We are the national public broadcaster. It's important that we be as close to Canadians as possible. We have, 88 radio stations. We've got 27 television stations across the country. I think last year we commissioned about 300 productions from independent producers across the country. So I think it's that presence that is one of the things that distinguishes us.
Catherine?
If I might add, it's about forging relationships with our independent producers in the regions, above all in French-speaking minority communities. And I think of the hits we've had with shows like Le Monde de Gabriel Roy and El Toro, both from Manitoba, and Montrouge from New Brunswick.
On the CBC side, this year we launched 7 local podcasts, from PEI to Saskatchewan to Vancouver Island.
Catherine, what have been the highlights of your year and the biggest challenges? Let's start with the highlights.
Okay, the highlights, I can speak from personally. We worked for many years on developing and creating the first ever national Indigenous strategy for CBC Radio-Canada. And the
project was led by our Indigenous employees with tremendous input from Indigenous creators and communities. So it's a real community effort.
And I think at the end of the day, when we launched this Indigenous strategy, it was CBC Radio-Canada speaking to First Nations, Métis and Inuit across the country. We're here for you. Help us serve you better. and we're here to serve you.
As for the issues, if I may call them that.
Yes, the challenges.
Challenges, yes. Of course, it's our financial situation. Given the pressures I've just described, the production costs, shrinking revenues, unfair competition from digital giants, the public broadcaster faces serious challenges because even though part of our revenue comes from advertising and subscriptions, 3/4 of it relies on public funding. And we've worked hard to improve our efficiency and find real solutions. But it is an ongoing challenge because we have a structural problem, the fact that traditional media are in flux.
Let's talk about rising polarization. In Canada and worldwide, we're seeing how the growth of polarization is weakening social cohesion. What is the public broadcaster doing, or what should it be doing to help address these fractures?
I think we need to find events, situations that can bring Canadians together, the Olympic and Paralympic Games. I think we can all agree that this was a proud moment for our country as Canadians came together to support our athletes. And it was the public broadcaster that made this possible. There are also national emergencies, wildfires, storms. There's no doubt that when it really counts, Canadians turn to CBC Radio-Canada for their news.
We can't forget Le Bye Bye.
And we can't forget Bye Bye. And the rest of our arts programs, we're there to reflect Canada's many cultures. But I'd like to add, all the same,
CBC Radio-Canada is probably the only media company in the country that has as many foreign correspondents around the world, en anglais,
in both English and French.
The planet is getting smaller. Issues have become global. So we absolutely have that role to play. The other piece I would add to this is Michael talked about not knowing what's true. And we know that disinformation is undermining our democracy. We know there's fake news. And in what I call news deserts, people are going to online sites and they're getting fed fake news and disinformation. And how does that feed a sense of common values? It doesn't. That's where the polarization occurs. So CBC Radio-Canada has a critical role to play in combating disinformation.
We do it with les décrypteurs, for example. We work non-stop to check the facts.
Our journalistic standards are the highest in the country, and 75% of Canadians still consider CBC Radio-Canada the most trusted source of credible news in the country.
Michael, it's your last annual meeting with Catherine this year. Do you have any words on Catherine, on her mandate for this last meeting?
Well, it's a little awkward sitting beside each other, but
bring it on.
Well, I sometimes I think in terms of lists, so let me give you 5 things.
First, and we touched on this, it's the digital transformation. I remember this was in the first few weeks or months of her mandate when CBC launched GEM and Radio-Canada launched Audio. So 2 major success stories that secured the future of our public broadcaster, and it was really Catherine's doing.
We talked about the Olympics. I remember the board decided to mandate her to go to Geneva to negotiate with the IOC to ensure that CBC Radio-Canada would be the official Olympic broadcaster all the way through to 2032 in Brisbane in Australia.
Keeping Canadians well informed. Sure, we'd all love to forget the whole COVID-19 period, but Canadians turn to CBC Radio-Canada to get informed, and in near record numbers.
and
leading an organization at a time when Canadians faced unprecedented challenges was no easy task. And managing a media company under those circumstances, and successfully at that, this is a massive accomplishment. Catherine mentioned the first National Indigenous Strategy. I was in Winnipeg when it was announced, and the evident trust that Indigenous leaders had in her and the strategy really touched me. I think this is a very important time in our country's history.
And then I would just finish in saying Catherine's work with the Association of Public Broadcasters, so several broadcasters from different countries, other democracies, working together under Catherine's leadership to ensure that all of our citizens will have access to reliable information. It's been a pleasure and an honor and a learning experience for me to work side by side with Catherine. So I'm very grateful to you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Très bien.